The following is a special presentation of Tony Kurre Radio.
Welcome to a special K4Wins March Madness podcast. I'm Tony Kurre, been reading radio about 40 years. Right below me, Kip Keeper, Executive Director of the Birmingham Racecourse Casino. To his left, of course, the Chief Editor, and he does everything on Las Vegas Sun. He's the man right there at Point Zero in Las Vegas. And, of course, Kai Gregory, live from the beach, doing some things with his kids. They got some ball games down there. We're checking in with him, of course. He's been a man that's been on both sides of this handicapping thing all the way through. So our first couple rounds, a couple of interesting things here. Favorites of 8 or more are 18-0 straight up. Favorites of 6 or more are 26-2 straight up, 19-9 against the spread. Last year and this year, 51-6 are teams that are favored by 8 or more points, and 38-19 against the spread. It has been pure chalk this year and the back half of last year. We have no 11 seeds or higher in the Sweet 16 for the first time in 18 years, and the SEC is 11-11 against the spread so far. Case Kiefer, your views. Everyone's saying it's kind of boring, man. Where's the upsets? Where's the Cinderellas? What the hell's going on? This ain't madness at all.
Well, I appreciate the way you framed the question. I appreciate you always go to me with stuff like this so I can go on a rant that basically has the same underlying message every time we do this. I think I did it in college football. And anyone that listens to me on any show is probably sick of it. But I absolutely hate the overreactions after all these big events. Every single show in the world let off with mid-majors are dead, no 11 seeds or higher, there's no such thing as Cinderella anymore. Can everyone just calm down a little bit? Like, yeah, it makes a little bit of different NIL. There is a little bit more power, but I mean, the average, I think 11 seeds and over the last 20 years, it's less than 2. It might be like 1.25 a year. I mean, so you're telling me that Derek Queen gets called for a travel or he misses that shot and Colorado State gets in the Sweet 16. That's how close we were. There's so much randomness.
Oh, yeah.
We're right with traditional norms. I mean, Drake in the same bracket, an 11 seed. They just got a terrible draw with Texas Tech, who by any power ratings, by far the best number 3 seed. You throw Drake against that Iowa State team that was a shell of itself. I think they probably win that game. I think they have a chance against Kentucky or Wisconsin too. Then you have 2. I just the overreactions just drive me crazy. I feel like maybe next year or 2 years from now we'll have a crazy upset laden tournament, and then it'll be all the mid-majors are back because kids want to go somewhere for playing time. I mean, we just I think if you bet, you might have more philosophy like I do. I think it just makes you appreciate how much randomness and how close all goes into this. I hate the like sweeping generalizations after there's inches that come down to these games. So I don't really think there's been that big of a sea change in college basketball. I think, and I think that the rest of the tournament's going to be outstanding now with all these great teams. I just think that's how it broke this year, and I don't think every single year we're never going to see like a Cinderella run again.
Yeah, having the 4-1 seeds go to the Final Four, that would only be the second time it's happening ever. And the first time, of course, 2008. I feel pretty good about the big dogs, and of course, the chalk is barking big time. So is the SEC, by the way, Kai. Everyone's like, "Oh, the SEC sucks." That first round, they are 11-11 against the spread, but the SEC still has half the field left. Basically 7 teams out of the Sweet 16. And, of course, our 2 big dogs here in town, Auburn and Alabama, looking pretty well. It's getting ready for the next round. I think we're pretty good. I think the SEC. Would you still take the SEC or the field case? Would you? I mean, Duke's probably an outlier right now. But
I'm big-time field. I actually, last time we were on the show, I said plus 110. I got to bet that. I forgot till the next day. I went to log on, and that was long gone. The field was minus 130. So I didn't end up betting it, but I feel really strongly about Duke or Houston. I think Florida's looked pretty shaky so far, both games. And I feel like I guess Kip actually said something critical of Florida. So the first person I've heard that I feel like isn't super high on Florida like me. I'm not saying it can't happen. I'm usually like not one of these people that get into this, but Florida would be such a break from historical norms of a team to win this tournament. I mean, I think there's been one other team in the last 30 years that had a coach that had never even been to a Sweet 16, win the championship. A team that by any preseason metrics was like barely in the top 25. I know those guards have been amazing. I know they have this really high level. They can certainly win it, but I just can't quite, get to where they're like the odds on favor. I mean, right now it's a coin flip between them and Duke in the betting market. I think Duke should clearly be favored over them. So I'm a little skeptical on Florida, to be honest.
Florida, the only team left out of the Sweet 16 with an 0-2 record against the spread. Kai Gregory, what's your thoughts on the SEC and what they're doing so far?
I've really liked seeing Ole Miss and how they've performed, and even Arkansas to some extent. although it gives a guy that I do not think is a great coach. Calipari is getting a whole lot of credit. I just think he has the players that are coming together right now. And I like the matchups for the SEC. I'm not real sure how Auburn is going to match up with the big guys with Michigan. That really, really interests me to see what Broome can and or can't do there. Think about it. You only have what is anywhere? No, I was looking through the brackets to see. Every single one of them has an SEC team in the way, but Alabama has looked all right. That's hard for me to say out loud, but once Nelson came in their first round game, they got that win. They've looked pretty good. And they've got a very favorable matchup, I think, against BYU. I think they at least get to the Elite Eight.
BYU's been one of those teams that it's been really hot. I mean, they're shooting the ball extremely well. They don't defend, and they don't do well against the three-point shot. Right now, they rank 171st in defensive efficiency, so that would certainly bode well. I think Alabama could probably run their own score, and that's probably why that over-under is 177.5, which, by the way, is only the fifth time for that to happen. Last 20 years, Bama had it over 3 times last year in the tournament, over 177. Of course, earlier in this year, we had over a 181 in a Kentucky basketball game, so it has not set a record yet. Kip, how are you feeling about our Bama boys and our Auburn Tigers right now? Again, we're talking the 6 best teams in the field playing all each other, so it gets rough from here.
Well, BYU's been an intriguing team for me since late in the season when I actually watched almost the whole entire game. I think it was on a Tuesday night where nothing was going on. It was BYU at Iowa State, and that's when Iowa State was still riding pretty high. That game went to double overtime. It was incredibly entertaining. Both teams back and forth. They played every minute of that overtime, and it was like an NBA game more or less. But they really impressed me with their medal to win at Ames, Iowa, which is the end of the earth. But you know what? I really kind of got a little bit high on BYU after watching that. And then they got to the finals of the Big 12 championship game, and Houston just made them look foolish. Houston just destroyed them. So I can't get that game out of my mind right now in assessing the Alabama game. I'm not putting Alabama on the Houston level, but they're certainly up on that same platform. I just don't know if BYU, I think maybe in games with other teams that they have a little bit of a favorable matchup, but I just not going to trust BYU again. I think Alabama is playing well enough. I don't think they're playing as well as they had at other times during the season, but 2 pretty good wins. Nothing that's blown me away, but I have to lean Alabama there. And I'm like Kai. Auburn, Michigan is an intriguing game. I think Auburn has the totality a better team, but I didn't think Michigan was that good in either game. But the fact, and Case and I on our segment last week on the starting lineup, I was talking about Michigan always coming up with with offensive rebounds down the stretch of that first game that they had, and I just forgot. I just had a blank out moment of who it was. That game went right down to the very end, but they kept coming up with offensive rebounds. And Case said something pretty poignant, but pretty obvious. He said, well, they've got 2 7-foot guys. They're going to get a lot of offensive rebounds. And that is a simplistic way to look at it. If Auburn doesn't have a really good push the ball, keep them in their kind of game, that's going to be problematic. But I still think, not to be a homer, but I think Auburn and Alabama are both well positioned to win their games.
Kip, I got to ask you, too, about Tennessee and Kentucky. I know you get another matchup with the Wildcats, and, of course, they're favored by 3.5. I got a chance to see. I love putting my eyes, watching basketball on TV is fantastic, don't get me wrong, but there's just something about being there in the arena. When your eyes are on it, and Kip, in case all 4 of us really understand, the proclivity of when you watch a game on television, it's just you get a different viewpoint because you get all the action at one time. You can feel the game a little bit, and the eye test is even better. Tennessee looked fantastic. Of course, UCLA, I don't know what in the hell happened in the second half of that squad right there. Mick Cronin's boys just looked like they actually laid an egg, and actually some of their old UCLA folks were actually booing their own basketball team. But how do you feel about Tennessee against Kentucky again?
I guess Kentucky's playing really well. They've been very methodical in both their games, and but I still don't think after watching an entire season of the regular season of the SEC, I just think the top four teams in the SEC, as I just mentioned, are on a little bit different platform. I think Tennessee, skill wise, is a better team. I think Ziegler's the best player on the floor. I don't look for the big upset. Familiarity is going to be an interesting theme here because these two teams certainly know each other intimately. I don't know. I haven't seen the lines yet, but I don't know how many Tennessee's going to give Kentucky. But as far as just winning the game, I don't think the Wildcats are going to be able to beat the Volunteers.
The boy up in the left-hand corner knows it's Tennessee minus 3.5, given to Kentucky. By the way, speaking of Kentucky, John Calipari up in those neck of the woods there, Rupp Arena, everyone was talking about John, the fact that he had split, and I think most Kentucky fans were happy that he left. He had never been an underdog in his coaching career in the NCAA tournament until this year. And then he was underdog in the round of 64. Now, of course, an underdog against Texas Tech. He's getting 5.5 against Arkansas. Let's go through those lines real quick. Kentucky getting 3.5 against Tennessee. Texas Tech minus 5.5 against Arkansas. Houston minus 7.5 against Purdue. Florida giving up 6.5 to Maryland. Michigan State minus 2.5 against Ole Miss. Duke 8.5 over Arizona. Bama minus 5.5 over BYU, and Auburn minus 8.5 over Michigan. Kai, first of all, I want to get your thoughts on your Tennessee Volunteers making the Sweet 16. Congratulations to you. I know, as a gambler, you have to go with your head, not your heart. It's really much easier said than done. But congratulations on your Tennessee Volunteers and that matchup right there. I don't know, you're seeing your Kentucky squad again. That's a good thing because you know them, but it's like it's not a lot of fun for you. But then again, it's Kentucky, Tennessee. How bad can it be, right?
Well, I mean, it's a hard thing to beat a team 3 times in a season. Everybody always says that over and over and over again. Well, but in college basketball and in a lot of these sports, you don't play each other 3 times. It's one of the reasons why it's hard to beat somebody 3 times. I think it is an absolute matchup nightmare for Tennessee. The way Kentucky's length, I think, is just a little bit too much. I hate to say it, I would absolutely take the 3.5 points. If I'm betting on the game, I would only play Kentucky in that game. Just like some of the others, I would only take one side. It's outside the SEC what we're talking about, but I absolutely, and everybody thinks I'm crazy, I love Arizona. I know how well Duke is playing right now, but I don't know why. I just really like this Arizona team, and I think they got a chance against Duke.
Case, I mentioned opening the show here that teams that were favored by 8 or more points are 8-0 straight up, not against the spread, but 8-0 straight and up, 6 or more. They're 38-19 against the spread over the last couple of years. You got 3 teams hovering around that 8-point line. You got Auburn 8.5. You've got Duke 8.5, and then of course you got Houston at 7.5. That could have 8, no doubt. Out of those 3 teams, and those are 3 big dogs, by the way. Which one's got the best shot at not only covering the 8, but actually getting a little bit of a blowout? Because we normally see some blowouts in Sweet 16.
Well, I think blowout. I feel like I'm oppo of every side everyone has said so far, so I'm going to really isolate myself this time. But
good.
I only bet one of these games. I bet Michigan plus 9.5 at open, which I don't really love. I'd be pretty shocked if Auburn lost, but I thought 9.5 was too high, and it's kind of come that way. As now it's 8.5, so I guess I'm happy with the Michigan 9.5. I haven't bet this game, but blowout potential just with what Duke has done. I don't see how you can't say that Duke is the most likely to blow this team out. I haven't bet this game. I actually technically show value on Arizona. I made it Duke minus 9. It's 9.5. That's not near enough for me to make a bet. And I say this all the time. If you've read my stuff, I launched my sports betting blog 15 years ago now, so I've written it so many times. But the market has a tough time pricing these like true outlier teams that just perform way above expectation. And I feel like Auburn did that for a stretch this year. Florida did it for a stretch. Duke is the team that from the very beginning of the year with very few blips has just been like the numbers are hard to catch up. So like I said, numbers wise, I'd be on Arizona, but my gut just says that Duke, this Arizona team's not really buttoned up. I know we have the fun Caleb Love narrative of being the Duke killer, but I don't trust the guy really when he's an underdog. I mean, he could easily throw up all these shots and go like 3 for 15 from the field too. So I'm not saying it will happen. Again, I technically show value on Arizona, but if you're giving me one game, it's going to be a blowout. And just the way Houston plays doesn't really lend itself to big blowouts against other good teams, which I've been really high on Purdue. I think I talked about on the show. I bet them both the first 2 rounds. I can't get there this round to quite bet them, although I do show value on them too. I'd be pretty surprised if that one's a blowout, though, just with Houston style. And obviously, I bet Michigan, so I think Duke's the most likely to get a blowout.
Kip, Purdue had 19 turnovers against McNeese. Of course, we had an interesting show yesterday, the Kiefer and Curry show, talking about coaches' changes. Of course, my man Sean Miller decided to leave his wife again and go back to Texas now instead of Arizona. He's not with his Xavier Musketeers anymore. We had a little
cry fest. They're going to hire Chris Mack. They're going back to another ex.
It's just like going back to the cupboard, man. It's like a harem of coaches over there. And the thing is, we really don't care. Xavier Musketeer fans, we really don't give a squat because we know the team's always going to be good. But we thought we gave Sean Miller a shot. And I said this driving back. I told my son, I said, Sean Miller's lost the edge. I said, he is not the coach for Xavier anymore. He is not the fiery guy. He wasn't like that on the sidelines at all in that last ball game. He was lucky against Texas. And I said, they'll be lucky to get rid of him. So I'm glad. I can't believe in Texas, again, with all the money in the world, probably the best spot they had. They're like, let's go get Sean Miller. They think they're going to end up going to win I guarantee you right now that Sean Miller will not win a national championship game with the Texas Longhorns. It's not going to work. He's not the right coach there, and he's not the right coach, period, right now. He's only been at 2 NCAA tournaments in the last 5 years with 2 of the perennial teams in all college hoops. The lines have gotten so tight, and the fact that everything is so good because we don't have a lot of those Drakes and those Northern Illinois and some of those squads. I think Kip has made it a lot more fun because we do have an opportunity now to really get nitty gritty because they're doing good. I think at this point, though, Kip, you talk about coaches all the time. I think John Shire is doing a hell of a job at Duke. I think he is. I think we see a guy turning into Mike Krzyzewski all over again. He is such a great coach. And of course, I love to see coaches that defend. That's the one thing that I'll give Nate Oates a hard time about. Great coaches know they must defend to win championships. And John Shire knows that. They've got the best offense in the world. They get the 4th best defense right now. And so when I look at coaches, when I get down to Sweet 16 and you're looking for those tiebreakers, coaches is what you're looking at, right, Kip?
Yeah, so much for the myth that it's impossible to replace the man, to be the man who replaces the man, because I think Coach K probably qualified as the man at Duke and then some for his career. Shire has done a remarkable job with this team, and I don't think it can be overemphasized how young this team is. I mean, this team is playing like some of the vintage Duke squads that we've seen over the last 20 years. They're just relentless, and they're driven every game. They don't seem to ever come out and just be flat or not inspired. The only loss in recent memory was that game at Clemson about 3/4 through the year, and they just didn't shoot the ball well, but that was a real aberration because they really haven't shown that in any other time. I mean, they're scary. And I just think they have this kind of relentless style. And like you said, it's on both ends of the court. It's interesting to me. Not only do we have all the single digit seeds, all we have left are the 4 power conferences. There are not a single representative from it's SEC, it's Big 10, it's Big 12, and 1 ACC team. So yeah, it is the blue blood Sweet 16 without a question. I wanted to weigh in on Arizona a little bit. I stayed up really late on a Sunday night, which is a weird experience for watching a basketball game that goes till midnight on Sunday. But Arizona, as much as I'm high on them, when I filled out my bracket, I had them winning this game against Duke. After watching the Oregon game, I'm a little bit now not so certain about Arizona because they had so many chances to put that game away and just made the stupidest mistakes. I mean, just ridiculous things. They had 2 dunks that they completely screwed up. One guy got called, or it was Love, a matter of fact, got called for hanging on the rim after blowing a dunk himself. And the other team Oregon goes the other end and shoots a free throw. And then they get another steal in the last minute, and that kid tries to do a tomahawk dunk and misses it. I mean, they did just some things were really undisciplined. I don't know how sophisticated. I know their coach has done a great job getting him to this point, but in this kind of game, just after what I just said about Duke and then thinking about Arizona, although I picked that on my bracket because I was, as you know, very anti all number one seeds making it because historically it just doesn't seem to happen. But maybe this tournament is going a little bit different direction than being one based on historical precedent. Because after watching Arizona being undisciplined and how buttoned down and just precision Duke is, I don't like the Wildcats' chances now.
K4Wins.com, K4Wins.com. Go check out the website. It's a free website. We got blogs on there, and of course, you can subscribe to it as well. We have not gone over the numbers. What are our numbers, Kai Gregory, this past weekend? And then we'll start throwing out some big dogs. We got some haymakers here. We got 8 games left in the Sweet 16. And again, we've got Major League Baseball kicking off on Thursday. We've got women's basketball. We've got hockey going on. We got the NBA going on. I mean, it's a great time. We're not just picking college basketball games. That's obviously the big thing right now, but we've got tons of stuff to pick on. K4Wins.com. What were our numbers?
Hockey's an easy game, Tony.
Yeah, I got news for you. You've been on fire. And I have not played one of your hockey picks yet because you know the deal. As soon as I start playing, I don't want to feel like I'm responsible. And I know I have nothing to do with whether you win or lose, but I'm just going to let it ride. I'm going to stay warm on this left-hand side of the couch and not get up to pee or anything until something happens. Kai, give me some numbers and then give me some plays for this weekend.
Now, Saturday and Sunday of last week, we were 12-4 and not bad, 75%.
Nice.
Very good.
I apologize. I have not updated the site today. I was getting ready to do that because I'm putting something on there for, one of my biggest holidays of the year is Thursday, the true opening day of Major League Baseball. I was sitting here while I was scrolling through, looking at some of the matchups that I absolutely love Thursday. And, most everybody has their number one pitcher going or somebody else's number one pitcher. Should be interesting looking at the totals. All the totals are pretty low on Monday, which they should be because the pitchers should be a little bit ahead of the batters, in my opinion, right now going on. So, I would probably jump on the over in the BYU Alabama game, looking at just the Thursday games since we're back on Friday. I would probably play that over. I do think Alabama will handle BYU. What you said, it was 5.5 or 6.
5.5 and 177.5. Yeah.
The Maryland Florida game I think is probably going to go over as well. Even though I'm the only one, I still like Arizona against Duke. It's hard, the Texas Tech Arkansas game Thursday. That one to me, I'm still up in the air on it. I don't have either way in that game.
All right, Kip, give me your best plays here for this Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or whatever you got, man.
Yeah, I like Alabama. I think they're going to play the BYU wants to play sort of a similar game, but I think Alabama's probably the best team in the country at that just wide open, full throttle kind of game. I look for them to get by this one. Again, a little bit of a SEC homer and backyard pick, but I do like the Crimson Tide. Some of the other games I've kind of had a hard time coming to a conclusion. If Texas Tech plays the way they played last game, I do like them to end the Calipari Arkansas dream. I think they're a better team overall, and I like the way they play. It just comes down to having a good shooting game. I know one of the games or they ran into games that they have not shot the ball as well. But of course, that could be true of anybody. But I do lean Texas Tech as one of my picks against an SEC team, Arkansas. And as I mentioned, I hear what Kai is saying about the matchup with Kentucky. I know Tennessee maybe doesn't look aesthetically like that's a great thing for them, but I just think the Volunteers are a better team top to bottom. And I just think Rick Barnes has got that team really locked in. I haven't seen any lapses in their performance so far. So I'm going to go with the Volunteers, too, to take the Wildcats out and send Big Blue Nation home.
I don't know if Rick Barnes is going to get to his second Final Four in 30 years of coaching, but this is his best opportunities right now. That Tennessee squad's playing for real, man. I loved watching them. I loved their effort. I just loved them getting up. They were cleaning the glass. They were winning every 50-50 ball. And, UCLA looked really, really bad. I was talking to some UCLA. I was talking to some Bruins fans. Dr. Josh Clayton, one of my best buds, went to UCLA. He was like, man, what's wrong with this team? This is not the same team that won, 23, 24 games this year. I think a lot of it had to do with Tennessee's defense. I think they made them look bad. They made them take bad shots. They were throwing up some clunkers. I'm going to take Tennessee minus the 3. I'll buy it down to 3.5. Houston minus 7.5. I'm not a Kelvin Sampson fan, but man, his defense. If they could just make some free throws, they got 3 guys in their team, I think, that are shooting over 85% free throws. Everyone else is like 60% or lower. If those 3 guys can get fouled towards the end of a ball game, Houston is going to be golden. I like Houston minus the 7 against Purdue, who didn't take care of the basketball at all, gave up again 19 turnovers in the McNeese State game. So I'm going to take Houston. I don't know if this is, and I usually come with a play of the year or a game of the millennium or whatever. I love Tom Izzo. I'm a huge Tom Izzo fan. I think he's headed back to his 9th Final Four. He's been to 8 of them already. They're second best right now in rebounding in the country, both on offensive and defensive glass. They're unbelievable. They defend the three-point shot extremely well. And I think Ole Miss's run is over, and I'm only getting up 2.5. I love Michigan State in this game. I will give up Izzo and 2.5. And when you talk about coaches, been there, done that. Basically, all he's got to do is win the basketball game. I'm taking Michigan State all day long. I absolutely love that. I'm a big John Shire fan. They got the best offense, the best defense. That means we have one of the best basketball teams. They've been blowing people out all year long. There's no reason why they can't do that against Arizona. I'm going to give up the 8.5. And then I think the Auburn-Michigan game is really interesting. Michigan, of course, 2-0 against the spread. Weren't given a shot. Everyone was going against them, of course, in that first game. Earlier in the run, then of course they were underdog going into round number 2, and now they're catching 8.5. Much like Case, I think it's just too many points. I haven't seen this. Auburn was playing so well. They had a run of about 3 or 4 games early in December, and then they had another run like early in February where they looked unbeatable. And then of course they lose 3 of their final 4 games, and all of a sudden it kind of came. And I, again, from a youngster standpoint, I think this team is trying to outthink itself a little bit. I still think they're probably the number 1 overall seed, but 8.5 points is just a little too much. Case, give me some of your plays, and then please, if you've got any futures for Major League Baseball for Thursday, because we won't be doing a show again until Friday, we'd love to hear those.
Well, how much time do you have? Because I have about 60 so far, and I'm still working on it. I actually have kind of I put my college basketball numbers together Sunday night, and have kind of checked out till this show because I've been working so hard to firm up the baseball portfolio. I haven't really looked at the first day matchups like Kai. I'm fully done with the National League. Just need to bet American League about 75% done there, and then I'll finish off the league leader stuff tomorrow. But yeah, because of that, I hadn't really looked at these Sweet 16 games till right before the show, and I did make. And again, I'm going to make no friends here, so nothing personal. This is just betting.
Okay.
Where I see value. I feel like I'm opposite of a lot of what you guys said. And I didn't even realize this week till just right now. I've made 4 bets on the Sweet 16, 4 sides, all against SEC teams.
Wow.
One just before we came on the show when I was looking over the numbers. I like BYU here. There was a BYU +6 here in Las Vegas. I fired on that. The one place that had 6 after I bet they went back down to 5.5. I still think if you're action starved, 5.5 is okay. I thought it was kind of telling right after the game. The first thing Nate Oates said is, we're playing a team that's the same style as us, an NBA style, pace and space. They don't usually play a whole lot of teams like that. I'm like, who is the most talented player on the floor? I think it's BYU. I mean, Dimmon's going to be a lottery pick. I've said all year the Alabama top-end talent isn't what it is in some past years. I mean, are they even going to have a single guy go in this draft? I mean, maybe Sears at the end. I'm not saying BYU necessarily beats them, and it's pretty slim value for me, even at 6. I probably wouldn't bet if it was 5.5 now, but and I think if you're taking Alabama, there is a thing to be said for there's going to be so many possessions, so many points. You usually want the favorite, the better team in that. I do think Alabama's the better team overall, but I don't know. I feel like that's too many points, so I did take BYU +6 right before we got on here. Just a normal size bet, nothing too crazy. Same with Michigan, which I got to be happy. I have 9.5. It's 8.5 now, but I'd be really surprised if Auburn lost this game. But I like Dusty May a lot. I think there is something to how well his teams have played in the tournament. You saw what I think the world of Buzz Williams. I mean, it was just 2 weeks ago where Buzz Williams was literally calling out the plays Auburn was winning, running on the sidelines, just schooled Bruce Pearl, not to get back to my usual pulpit about Bruce Pearl being overrated. But then what did you see happen at halftime? It looked like Buzz Williams' team was unprepared, and Dusty May made some adjustments. So I think highly of Dusty May. I guess I'll be okay with 9.5 there, but I'd be surprised if Auburn won. I think the only side any of us match on is the biggest bet I've made here. I'm a little bit worried that it hasn't moved my way, but maybe I'm just too high on this team, but I love Texas Tech. When that opened, I fired 5.5. pretty big. I thought that it was going to move. It hasn't moved yet. So clearly there's some people in Arkansas. I loved Arkansas against St. John's. I just think this is a different dimension against Texas Tech. I'm going to be another broken record. I feel like I've said it the last 3 weeks on our show, but Chance McMillan has been out for Texas Tech. I keep thinking he's close to returning. He hasn't returned yet. I think he dressed in the second game. I mean, he's, I think, only their third or fourth leading scorer, but their most switchable defender. I think all Big 12 defensive team. I think if he does end up playing this week, he's had more days to recover. I think that still goes in Texas Tech's direction. So again, Texas Tech -5.5. My biggest position. I'm always a little bit worried though when it's now Tuesday. I bet that on Sunday I thought it would move in my direction. It hasn't. So Arkansas is taking some support. The other side I bet, and this one's actually moved against me. And again, I've been wrong on Florida all year, so maybe I'm wrong. But I bet Maryland +6.5. I got -102 reduced juice. It's now 7 everywhere. I think Maryland played pretty poorly against Colorado State. I would expect a better effort here. I just thought the number should be a little bit shorter. I made it 4.5. I think Maryland starting 5 can match up with anyone. The depth is where there's going to be a problem here. Florida, obviously, way more depth. But that doesn't concern me as much in a Sweet 16 game as if like these guys are meeting in the Elite Eight. They're going to have time to prepare. It's across the country, so they both have to deal with the travel. Florida didn't get any favors in that regard, despite being a 1 seed. So I did bet Maryland +6.5, -102. Another just normal size bet. The only big thing I made was Texas Tech -5. And since I've gone against everyone else, I'll just have to go against Tony too to start off. I haven't bet this game, but I don't like Michigan State. I've said it all year. There's 2 teams that I'm skeptical of: St. John's and Michigan State. They both play so hard. They're so well coached, great defensively, great rebounding, but they just don't have the offense that you would typically think a team that is a 2-seeder is going to get to the Final Four is going to get. And I always thought I was going to catch up to them at some point. We saw it catch up to St. John's with Arkansas. I think Michigan State's such a similar team. You see them get off to slow starts time and time again and then just piece it together. I mean, it looked like Bryant could beat them at halftime, then they blew them out. New Mexico looked better than them in the first half. St. John's, I felt like was getting off to all these slow starts that finally caught up to them. My gut tells me the slow start catches up to them here against Ole Miss. I think Ole Miss is rolling right now. I honestly think Ole Miss beats them outright. It opened 4.5 and I hesitated. I wanted to bet it and I did it. And I waited too long. Now it's 3 mostly. Maybe you saw some 2.5. So I can't hate on a Michigan State -2.5 bet because I actually do show value there. I make it 3, but if we're not going on numbers, just gut, Ole Miss is the team in the SEC I like best from a betting perspective this round. I guess Kentucky, Tennessee, I guess that's the only game I haven't touched on. I don't have a bet here. I will say that what Kai said, the whole it's tough to beat a team 3 times in a year is, if you look at the numbers, a myth. If you bet the team that has already beaten the team twice, the third time I saw a study, I think, going in last year's tournament. Usually the team that's already won twice, there's some matchup thing there or something. You're a profitable bettor if you bet the team that's already won twice a third time. So that would make you think I'm leaning Kentucky, but I'm really not. I like Tennessee's top end players a little bit better. I think Lanier and Ziegler, Lamont Butler playing with one arm doesn't inspire much confidence. So my gut says Tennessee wins this game, but I think the number's right where it should be.
All right.
Hey, Tony.
Yeah, go ahead.
Real quick, how come nobody is talking about, and we haven't mentioned him by name, but the team that's probably the most surprised team on this stage right now is Ole Miss. Why isn't Chris Beard getting more acknowledgement? You're hearing all this stuff about Calipari. What about the job this guy's done with Ole Miss? Did anybody really expect him to be here?
I think it's the Chris Beard and Todd Golden. Both are similar for me, where I think they're 2 of the absolute best coaches in the nation, but with some of the how do I put it kindly, the trials they've gone through off the court. I don't like to sit here and bang my chest of like there's still a little bit of morale. But yeah, if you're just having me win a basketball game, I mean, Beard and Golden might be my top 2 picks at this point. That might sound crazy to people, but
not for
those 2 guys give a big
for top coach. Yeah, I got
well, there's a lot of guys in this tournament that aren't men of the year. I got news for you. Sampson, Calipari, you name it. Patino. Give me some baseball. We only have a few minutes here, but if I'm wanting to put something down so I can look at it for the entire year, let's start with my Cincinnati Reds because I'm a huge Reds fan. Do they have a shot in the hell at doing anything this year? And then, of course, I just saw a great piece on Soto going to the Mets last night, which was just great. I cannot believe Major League Baseball season starts on Thursday. But give me some futures there, Case.
Reds-wise, I feel like there's a huge variance. I mean, numbers-wise, like statistically, you would have it seems like there's too much excitement on them. My numbers would kind of point me towards unders. However, I didn't do that. They just have so much young talent that I feel like the upside's high. I know I did make one pro Reds bet. I think it's moved a little bit since I bet it Sunday. I saw today it might have only been 5-1, but I bet Terry Francona manager of the year at 6-1. I just want to capture that upside with the Reds because I don't think they're great, but they have so many young guys that if they hit, and Francona's teams have just time and time again eclipsed expectations. So I wanted to find a way to bet the Reds where it's if everything goes right, where can I get a higher payout than just betting over 80.5 wins, which I think is honestly a little bit high. I think I have them. Let's see. I have my numbers right in front of me. Like I said, I was working on it all the way leading up to the show. I have Cincinnati only at 76 wins, but again, I think their standard deviation is a lot higher. I think the tail outcomes, especially on the positive end. I know for a lot of people that's led them to an Ellie De La Cruz MVP bet. I can't quite get there. He's only like 20-1, maybe if it was 30 or better. So my pro Reds bet, Francona, 6-1 to win manager.
And I'm sitting there, a Reds fan. I didn't even realize that he was the manager when he said. I said, "Hold on, wait a minute, the Reds have Francona seriously?" Because I remember going out and having dinner and drinks with him when he was with the Birmingham Barons. So, man, I love me some Terry Francona. You've just given me like a sharp edge here. I'm ready for Thursday now. That's awesome.
Hunter Green, I haven't bet this, but strikeout leader if he stays healthy. He's got nasty stuff. I think he's like 25-1 strikeout leader. Not something I've bet, but another one I was close on. I think we might have talked about it a little bit through text, but after being against everyone in basketball, I guess I'll just be magnanimous here and happy with everyone. I'm high on Kai's team. I'm all over Red Sox stuff. I have Red Sox to win the division, Red Sox to win the American League. Red Sox over 85.5 is what I have. Now, here's what I will say about this. My biggest advice would be to pump the brakes right now because I bet a bunch of this like a month ago when I first started doing stuff. They're now like the trendy team. Everyone is betting them. Their numbers have gone way up, and they start the season with a really hellacious schedule. I think they're at Texas and then at someone. They have 2 tough road series to start. So I say wait a week and hope that they go like 2-5, 3-4 to start. I don't think there's any weaknesses on this team. The front office has gotten a lot smarter. They're developing guys differently. They got Crochet, they got Bregman. They've gotten really popular since I bet them, and the prices that I got are gone. Maybe wait a week, hope that they get off to a bad start and then come back in because I honestly think I like this team as much as anyone in the American League. If I had to pick an American League winner right now, it's the Red Sox.
And
guys, fantastic. Go ahead.
Because Bello and somebody else, the 2 and 3 pitchers, number 2 and number 3 in the rotation are out for I think it could be another 2 or 3 weeks.
All right, guys.
And they get Bregman, but did Devers ever change his mind? Because Devers said a couple weeks ago he won't play. He's going to play third base. Is Bregman going to play third now?
Their Devers has sucked in spring training, I guess, and Kai's probably more up to it on me. And now of course they've gone with the company line of ball. He really just wants to win at the end of the day. So it does look like it'll be Devers DH, Bregman third base, which is huge too because Devers is a terrible defensive third baseman, despite saying
because I saw that quote a couple weeks ago. No, I'm playing third base. Unquote. So yeah, that was a problem. And I have to throw in real quick, Tony, in the the publications power ratings for baseball yesterday, the Atlanta Braves, number 2 team behind the Dodgers in the major leagues. So go Braves.
There you go. Good stuff, guys. K4Wins.com, K4Wins.com. We'll do a show again later on this week after our next round of games coming up on Thursday. Best of luck, peace to everybody, and keep making yourselves a winner. Thank you, guys.
This has been a special presentation of Tony Kurre Radio.